welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where despite my COVID, I'm still going to be making these videos. I'm determined not to let it stop me. At the moment, the symptoms are I have no sense of taste, no sense of smell, and a very bad sore throat, but my headache feels a bit better. So I hope that means I'm improving. What's the thing I'm most worried about? It's a very psychological illness, actually, in the sense that you're constantly thinking, oh, don't let it get really bad. But I really don't want any brain fog for, I hope, obvious reasons. But I tell you what, this puzzle today might induce brain fog. This is called 3 Snakes, 2 Puzzles, and it's by the Cogito. Oh, the Cogito. That's, I think, how I meant to say the Cogito's name. I've read the rules. They are bonkers. This one today is a bonkers puzzle. I'm rather worried it's going to be brutally difficult, which is not going to suit me. And the instructions involve the words Latin square, which we don't see very often. Normally, of course, we explain Sudoku rules as normal Sudoku rules apply. Here we've got no regions, I think, today. So it looks like we can just use the words Latin square and be done with it. But yeah, this is certainly an extremely odd rule set. And it's almost a bit of a miracle puzzle because, well, in fact, yeah, I mean, look at the grid. There's these circles are odd digits. We're told in the instructions there are 3 snakes we have to draw, and this is a normal black Kropke dot. So it's completely sparse rule set, and I'll read you the rules properly in a moment. I do have a couple of birthday announcements, though, to read out today. The first is to Jess from your boyfriend Patrick. Jess, I think you're turning 22. And Patrick said you really enjoy the videos, which we're delighted to hear. And I was delighted to hear that you really enjoy the guitar intros from time to time as well. That made me smile. So, Jess, we wish you a very happy birthday, and I hope you've had, of course, lots of cake. Now, next, Kim, it's your birthday today. Your husband Kyle wrote to us actually a very touching email. I know that as a family you've had a really rough couple of years, and I think what you're doing is incredible, and I hope that you have a brilliant day today. And I want to obviously shout out Sam and Max as well. Max, I know you're only 6 months old, but I gather you enjoy listening to the music, and you know it means that numbers are coming on the screen. You're going to be amazing at puzzles in a few years' time. So, good luck to all of you, and I hope you've had a brilliant day today. Now, what are the rules of the Cogito's puzzle? Let me read them to you. Sorry, my voice will still catch occasionally because I do have a small cough. They are as follows. Latin square. Each digit 1 to 9 appears exactly once in every row and column. So we've got to fill this row, etc. 1s and 9s as usual. The only thing we don't have to do today is make sure each box has the digits 1 to 9 because there are no boxes. Now, here's where it gets crazy. Divide the grid into 3 snakes, which don't overlap and which collectively cover the entire grid. A snake is a one cell wide path of orthogonally connected cells with no branching. A snake may not touch itself, even diagonally. There you go. Cells separated by a black Kropke dot are in a 1:2 ratio, so one of those digits is double the other one. Cells containing grey circles must contain odd digits, so those 2 digits are odd. Thick borders between cells indicate those cells are part of 2 different snakes. So whatever snake this one is not the same snake. That would have to be a different snake, possibly a blue snake. I'll leave you to decide what the appropriate colours of the snakes are. And adjacent cells along the same snake must contain digits that differ by exactly 4 or 5. Adjacent cells along the same snake must contain digits that differ by exactly 4 or 5. Right. And that's it. That is literally it. Apparently, we can now fill in the whole puzzle. So I'll leave that as an exercise to the watcher. No, I won't. I will try and do it. But yeah, that's all we get. So do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. Now I get to play let's get cracking and see how we're going to do this. So adjacent cells along the same snake must contain digits that differ by exactly 4 or 5. So that is not quite like a German whisper. In fact, it's rather... Yeah, okay. So if there is a snake that occupies an entire row of this puzzle, I was wondering about the 5 along that snake. So it depends a bit on whether the 5 is at the end of the snake. Let's just imagine that was a snake. Can we define the digits we're going to find on this snake precisely, or is it harder than I think it might be? So the 5, if the 5's in the middle, it's really potent, because if the 5's not in the middle, by in the middle I mean if the 5 is not exactly at the end of the row, because the next digits along from the 5 have to be either 4 or 5 different from the 5. They can never be 5 different from a 5. Obviously, if you're used to the German whispers explanations, you'll know why. I mean, the next digit would have to be 10 or 0. That won't work. So here, if the 5 is surroundable on the snake, it would have to have 1 and 9 on each side of it, although we wouldn't know the order, obviously. And then the next digit couldn't be 5, so we'd have to go into the realms of being 5 different. So we'd have 4 here. 5 different is 6. And then we'd have, then we'd have to go 4 different for a 2, wouldn't we? And then we'd have to go 5 different for a 7. And then we'd have to go 4 different for an 8. And then we'd have to go 5 different for a 3. Okay, and then it cycles. Yeah, okay. By which I mean, imagine in fact therefore that this 3 continued, what would the next digit on the snake be? If this row was more than 9 cells long, imagine there was a cell here, what would we put into that? Well, we couldn't put 8, so we'd have to put 7, and that happens to be this digit. And then we would cycle again. So to the extent that you can't repeat digits along the snake, this is the cycle of the digits that we need to find. Now, the problem here, and there are many problems, is that this snake could go the other way round, and perhaps more importantly, the snake could turn. And if the snake turns, that blows everything out of the water. Because, for example, if the snake did that for a moment, and we thought about putting, I don't know, let's put the 9 here. Then if we made that a 5, what's to stop this being a 5? And the answer is, of course, nothing. Okay. That's weird. I mean, is it weird? It's worrying. That's a better adjective. Well done, brain. Because okay. Oh, right. So is that telling us, is this 4-8 then? This black. Yeah. Okay, so whatever snake that is in the top left-hand corner, obviously, I say obviously, is it obvious that this must also be a snake? It must be that part of that same snake, or could we have a 1-cell snake? That seems unlikely. Can I categorically state there are no snakes in this puzzle? There's 3 snakes. If one of the snakes was just 1 cell wide, or 1 cell long, then the other 2 snakes would have to average 40 cells each. That's probably absolutely impossible, but I can't immediately see. Well, all I was thinking was, if this snake does come into that cell, and those 2 cells are therefore on the same snake, and separated by a black dot, there are no black dot variations where the two digits are 5 apart, because we either have to have 1 and 2, 2 and 4, 4 and 8, or 3 and 6. And the only one of those that's 4 apart is a 4-8 pair. So that would be a 4-8 pair. And we can see that on the sequence here, look. So if it, yeah, but the problem with, yeah, it's very awkward, because if it then takes a little turn, this could be a 4 or an 8. And if it extends here, then this would have to be a 3 or a 9, depending on which direction this was going in. Wow, this is not helpful. It's not helpful at all. Right, okay, so we're going to have to do some mega thinking, I think, to figure this out. I don't know whether I should have just got rid of that. Do I want to keep this in my brain? I just don't know. I just don't know whether I want to keep that as a sort of aid memoir or not. Let's delete it. Let's delete it. We can always make it again later. So how do we build the 3 snakes? Is there some way to tell exactly how this should look? I'm tempted to say it feels to me like there's some sort of spiral going on, and I realise that's not logical, but you know, there's something like, I don't know how to do this, but something like this going on. That's going to break there, but maybe if I go down instead, something like this. No, that's horrible, actually. No, I'm creating too many snake ends when I do that. Right, hang on, let me think about this for a second. Thick borders. Divide the grid into 3 snakes. Right. Okay, so I want to look at the corners, but I've been a bit nonplussed by my thought that there might be a really tiny snake in the grid. But if we just highlight the corner cells for a moment, and let me just think about this. So we know that we know each loads of wind again today. That's going to be great, because that's going to start banging all over. Let's hope the poltergeist sort of remains in his box. But these corner cells must be snake ends, mustn't they? Because that's what they are. The whole grid is covered by snakes. So once a snake goes in a corner, that forms a snake end. So these 4 snake ends, and there are 6 snake ends in this puzzle, because there are 3 snakes. Each will have 2 ends. So that means that at least two of these ends connect with each other. Now that feels like it matters. I have a lot, to be honest, I was about to say I have a lot of difficulty believing that, for example, this end here would connect with this. But I'm not sure if I have. Then I think about that, which seems even more unbelievable. Right, let me just think about this. So we know that 2 of them must connect. But if this one, let's just have a think about this. Oh goodness, sorry, there's going to be loads of squeaking. If it gets really bad, I will try and shut the window or something, but that will mean I have to pause the video, and that's going to be annoying, so I don't want to do that. Let's imagine just for a moment that this snake joined there. So that to me feels impossible. But can I prove it? The reason it feels impossible is, what's this colour now? Because that colour must be, well, I suppose I was about to say it must be one of these colours, but then I guess it's possible that that this and this would join up. So we'd have a snake joining down here somewhere, and a snake joining down here somewhere. No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Because if that was true, whatever this snake was, let's make it green for a moment, because we're saying just for a moment it's not blue and it's not purple. If this is a new coloured snake, then we're saying blue and purple are the same. But then this needs to be a colour that is not blue, and therefore it's either green or it's red. Let's make it red for a moment. Well, in connecting blue to blue, I'm isolating red, and if I make it green instead, in connecting blue to blue, I'm isolating green. It doesn't matter how the blue connects, it can go on a really long journey, but hopefully it's very clear that however that orthogonal journey is made, it will effectively create a wall hiving this cell off from the left hand side of the grid. So it's not possible, let's go back to, I can't remember what colours I had, but it's not possible to argue that this is some new colour. This is either blue or purple. Now, but the same logic applies. That doesn't work. That doesn't work, because however I connect red to red, I'm beginning to think this puzzle's impossible actually, but however I connect red to red, I've proved this cell has to be blue or purple, and obviously blue or purple is incapable of connecting to its friend, because it has to go through the wall of red, and the snakes cannot don't overlap. Yeah, it says which don't overlap, and they would have to overlap to connect this to one of these. So actually, all right, let us hope that I've overlooked something in my brain at the moment, because now I think I'm very comfortable with stating that red does not join here. And because this grid is rotationally symmetrical, that applies exactly the same for this. I can say that this doesn't join to this doesn't join to this. Because I didn't use the logic around this, what's the right way to call it? This divider, in concluding that this and this are not part of the same snake. So, but that means, because that logic implies that that and that aren't part of the same snake as well, because we can just do all of that logic exactly the same way, that implies that there is a diagonally connected snake. Either these two or these two are connected. Yeah, okay, but that feels even harder, doesn't it? That feels really difficult. Because now, for this to be true, now it's true to say that blue and green are different colours, because however I connect red to red, obviously this one can never now connect to this one without crossing red. So these are the two other coloured snakes. So what colour's that then? That colour is, well, it can't be blue, can it? No, it can't be blue, because if that's blue, this cell here is clearly not red, but if it's blue, in connecting blue to blue, I will isolate reds from each other, so that is green. But if that's green, don't all of those have to be green, or is that nonsense? No, they all have to be green. Anything, yeah. If I interrupt the flow of green down the column 1, if I interrupt the flow of green with a blue or a red, then in connecting the greens together, the interrupting colour will be isolated from its friends. So I'm now going to say all of those are green, which is quite exciting, and I can do the same. Oh yeah, okay, this is going to work everywhere. This is really clever. This is really clever because it seems impossible when you start to think about it, but actually, and even my intuition was telling me it's impossible, but actually now I'm thinking I'm beginning to see how it might be solvable. So now, what's this? Well, that's not green. Because if that's green, when I connect green to green, this red is isolated. So that's blue, and therefore by the logic we just did on this column, these are blue. Yeah, I see what's going to happen here. Somehow, some way, we're going to carry on doing all this logic, and we're either going to find it works, or we're going to find we hit a problem, but with this central boundary. And it's this central boundary that's going to tell us whether the correct way that the snake connects is across the grid from top left to bottom right, or across the grid from bottom left to top right. So now these are obviously right. What's this colour then? That's not green. If that were blue, in connecting blue to blue, however it was done, you're isolating red. So that is red. The same logic applies here. That is red. These can't be interrupting colours. We mustn't interrupt the flow of red, because if we interrupt the flows of red by, for example, interposing a naughty blue, in connecting the blues up, we'll isolate this red. So again, everything there is red. Everything here is red. Now, this might be where it gets tricky. So, I know my red has to continue. I don't know the same thing about blue and green can stop at any point, but because reds have to connect under this sort of hypothesis that we're connecting these two together, I've got to keep my red going. A red doesn't branch, so it must grow there. Now it doesn't touch itself, so it doesn't come to this cell, and it's not naughty. It's not going to start touching itself there, so it must take that cell. The same must be true here. We guess there's a lot of symmetrical logic as well. So now, I'm tempted actually to just try and trace the snake in. It's doing this. The green can't branch, so the green is coming up and then probably turning. The blue is coming down and probably turning. Let's have a think about that cell. Okay, if that cell is not green, it's blue, and that's not blue, because then if I make the blues meet, I'm isolating the top red from the bottom red. So that is green, which means, well, I don't know actually. What about that then? That might be different. What about... No, yeah, okay. None of these cells here, these 4 cells, cannot be green because green would branch or be touching itself. And none of them can be blue, because if any one of these was blue, in connecting the blue to the blue, we're going to isolate reds from each other. So all of those are now red actually. And the same problem now comes with this being blue. If that's blue, again you isolate the top red from the bottom red, so that's green. I think this logic is going to just take us, it is spiraling, isn't it? It's going to take us on a spiral journey. Now, that can't be green for exactly the same reason that one up there couldn't be blue. If that one's green, it's not red, because red's branching. And if it was green, in connecting the greens together, we would isolate the reds from each other. So that is blue. These all have to be red. If they're green, we've isolated the red again. Ah, red. This can't be green. Again, it would cut the reds off, so that's blue. Now we know that the reds have to extend, so we have to turn them. So now again, I can start drawing in more knowledge we're getting about how the red path goes, because we can always assume the red can extend, which is not the case for the blues and the greens. But again, this, yes, it's the same thing. This is, I don't quite know how this is going to end, but what about this cell? That can't be blue. Again, to connect the blues up, we're cutting off the reds, so that's, and it can't be red, so it must be green. The red has to extend, and it can't turn back on itself. That logic we just did to argue why this cell couldn't be blue applies exactly the same to that cell not being blue, so that's still green. And we're slowly but surely, and all of this logic must also apply down here as well. Okay, is that, there's probably a way we could shortcut this. I'm sort of tempted to try and sketch in how this is going to finish, but I'm a bit nervous about doing that as well, so maybe we've got to take our time. Right, is this cell green? No, because that would isolate red, so that is blue. Is this cell, if that cell is anything other than red, red is turning and hitting itself, so that cell is red. Now again, that cell is blue because it can't be green. What colour is that cell? That's less clear to me. I can't see that one as clearly. If that's green, it could do. No, if that's green, in connecting the greens together, however I did it, I would be, I'd be isolating this snake end, wouldn't I? That snake end there is sort of trapped in this little area, and yet we know that the two ends of the red snake are here and here, so that cannot work. So this has to be blue. But if that has to be blue, how do we connect these together? We can't have any interfering colours, so all of those are blue. There we go, that's quite powerful. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so can I do that logic again with this cell? So if I make that blue, then this red cell here is a snake end, and it can't be. So that's got to be green, which means these greens have to connect. Yeah, that's a much more efficient way of thinking about it. So that's quite good. And now look, we can isolate all of this. All of our green snake is now growing in a very one cell wide manner, which is beautiful. But I've still got to connect my red snakes to each other. Oh, no, I've got it. This is wrong. I shouldn't sound excited about that, but it's wrong. It's wrong. Because I can see how this is going to work. You're going to go boom, 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 boom. And then, if you did that and made a big S for Simon in the middle of the grid like that, except, you know, with being reflected. But you understand what I mean. Is that COVID doing things to my brain? It's more like a 2, isn't it? But yeah, it can't go like that, but it sort of wanted to in my brain. It's a slithery snake like this. If you do a slithery snake like this, we're going to run afoul of this. So I think this is going to break. Now, what's this? That's not blue. And if it's green, the reds are isolated, so that's definitely red. That's definitely red. Red, we know, has to extend. Red can't hit itself, it has to extend. If red closed here, all of this would be green, and that would be absolute nonsense. So the red has to turn through an illegal barrier. Mustn't hit itself, so again, you know, what colour is this cell? That's not blue because this red would be isolated, so that's got to be red. Therefore, that's got to be red. This red has to turn. How does it close? It must close like that. Yeah, look, that's so beautiful. So that is not correct, but it is, if you see what I mean. That is the way that these are going to have to connect to each other. I hope I'm not. Let's just have a think about that. So, because what I don't want to do is to do all that logic again. It is going to be different, isn't it? I'm not going to get the same orientation. I'm not going to get the same orientation because of the way the snakes start. These two snakes start horizontally, and that sort of sets them on the path that puts them through a horizontal junction here. These snakes start vertically, so if we try to connect these up through the centre, I think what we're going to get is a much more, we're going to dodge this problematic junction. But rather annoyingly, I've basically got to restart the puzzle, I think. I think I understand the logic now, but this is such nonsense. We've got to remove it. Sorry, how do we just restart the puzzle? There we go. That was actually remarkably painless, wasn't it? So now these two are in the same snake. I'll make those red as a sort of recompense for that. So these are both red. These are different colours, and we'll make those colours. This has to extend. This has to extend, and now I think all that early logic is still correct. This can't be yellow or the red's isolated, so that's blue. Makes the whole bottom row blue. Yeah, we do the perimeters. That's what we do first. We do the perimeter like this. We do the perimeter like this. Then we have to think a bit because we need to make sure the reds extend. So we do this and extend our snakes. We extend our yellows because this needs to not be blue. Because if that's blue, we've isolated the red. So that's yellow. Yellow can't hit itself. This needs to be a colour. The poltergeist is out. Okay, this colour is not yellow. Because if that's yellow, however it closed, this would become a snake end. And we know that the two red snake ends are there and there. So that cell is blue. And therefore all of those are blue. Yeah, okay, I've got to remember this because that's by far the quicker way of doing this. The same thing is true here. Don't make a red snake end, so make all of those yellow. What colour is this? If that's yellow, I've made a red snake end again, so that's red. So that's all red. We know reds have to keep extending. It's not going to work if we do that. This has got to be red because if it's blue, red is locked in a corner. And it can't be yellows. That's red. All of this turns red. Keep extending the red. Keep extending the red. Okay, and hopefully we're going to get something like this going on in the middle in a minute. What colour is this? That's a good question. If it's blue, well, hopefully it's clear. It cannot be blue. Because if that's blue, connecting this blue to this blue, however I do it, will isolate a red end. So that cell, which cannot be red, because the snake will have touched itself if it's red, must be yellow, which forces all of those to be yellow. And the same logic applies exactly the same way there. All of these have to be blue. So please let this work. Now what colour is that? That now must be red, or we've created another snake end of red. If this is yellow, so this is red, so all of these are red. Oh, and now we don't want to close the redness up here. This cell must be red for the same reason we just did. And is it going to work, or have I broken? No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Because now I can close it here with red, make those two blue, make these two yellow, and this naughty little junction has been avoided. So that is, right, this is why this is called 3 Snakes, 2 Puzzles, because this is very much a start of the puzzle, isn't it? That's taken me half an hour to actually fix the positions of the snake. But I think I've done it. I've got a blue snake, a yellow snake, and a great big red snake. And I haven't broken any of the requirements. But it is a little bit alarming to think that this now solves from a black Kropki dot and 2 odd digits. What the blinking business is going on there? Well, okay, we know that's a 4-8 pair now. So we know that... Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember what that sequence we made was. So, okay, we're going to have to work out what the options are along this line then. So, if this is 4, say, then we know that this, let's just, oh no, I don't really want to. If this is 8 and this is 4, then this has to be 9. And if this is the other way round, of course, then this is going to have to be 3. So 3 and 9 go together on this sequence. But this is going to just keep going, isn't it? This awful way. Ugh. So if this is 3, then I've got to go to 7. And if this is 9, I've got to... We know 9 was one of those digits that was next to 5. Okay, and then we go for a 1 here. And if this is 7... We've got to go 5 different from 7 to get to 2. So this would be 1 or 2. How is this helping me? Oh, okay. So am I going to get that? I suppose I'm going to get that digit down to 1 or 2, one of 2 things. And that, that's quite interesting. So I'm going to get huge, long... It's going to be quite difficult to do this, I think. Anyway, let me just continue. I have a hunch that I can basically view the top row, although the top row is not in one snake. Because it is a Latin square and every digit in the row is different, I can effectively view it as that. You remember when I did at the start, I put in all of the options along here, and we found it was a cyclical snake if you knew there was not a repeating digit. Well, because I know there's no repeating digit in row 1 and I know 8 of the cells are on the snake, I think this will just fall to be that other digit, and we can effectively view row 1 as a cycle. Now, if that's true, of course, that means I'm going to be able to view column 9 as a cycle once I've got this digit, and then I'm going to get that digit, etc. So I'm going to start to spiral round the grid with this pattern, I think. But anyway, let's carry on. If we've gone 5, 1 here, we've got to go to a 6 here. And if we've gone 7, 2 here, I've got to go to... a 6 as well. Oh, that would be exciting. That would be a digit. Hang on, let me just double check that. If I had 5, I know I was going to 1, because I've gone 9, 5, 1. And therefore the next digit is 5 away from 1, which is a 6. Now if I've gone 7, 2, I've used the gap of 5, so I need the gap of 4 here. So this is always a 6. So this is a 1, 2. This is then the 5, 7. This is the 3, 9. And then we got the cycle. So now it's quite good, because I might be able to use the top row as a sort of aide-memoire in what's going on. Because I know that's odd. Yes, and because I can view it as a cycle, this is the 5. This is really clever. This is really clever. Yeah. This is why this is here. Because let's think about the nature of 3 and 9 along this sequence. Now, 3 and 9 has the opportunity to be next to a 4 or an 8 in this cycle. You can see it could be next to this 4 or 8, or this one could be next to this 4 or 8. Now, because we can view this column as effectively a snake cycle, I hope that's clear. I mean, because of what we did earlier. I mean, when we looked at this row and we worked out how the numbers moved from one to the other, we didn't know the order, but we knew that it was a cyclical sequence. Our problem was that we don't know, obviously, we had no way of fixing in what order the sequence was occurring. But because we've got 8 snake cells here and then a leftover cell, this will always be the gap in the sequence that takes us back to the start. So we can view this column as a sequence. And if we can view it as a sequence, we know that in theory a 3 or a 9 can attach to a 4 or an 8 on the sequence, but not here. And the only other digit or combination that 3, 9 attaches to in this sequence, as you can see there, 5, 7, or this 3, 9, is also 5, 7 on the other side. So that's an odd digit, so it must be a 5 or a 7. I'm a bit confused about how we're ever going to know what that is, but let's come down this column now and see if we can make it work. So now we know we're in a world where the 3, 9... Oh, this is going to get confusing, isn't it? This is going to get confusing. So the 3, 9 has gone to a 5, 7. And maybe it's not actually. The 3, 9's gone to a 5, 7. And you can see that whenever 3, 9 goes through a 5, 7 on the sequence, whichever way round it goes, the next digit's always a 1 or a 2, and then you always get a 6. That's weird. So that's a 6. Then you go 1, 2 again, and then we're sort of just unwinding the sequence again. We go 4, 5, 7 into 3, 9 into double 4, 8. So we get this sequence, and we get the 6 here. Good grief. Right, now this one, the thing that's confusing me about this one is that I have no knowledge of what this is. But this digit, whatever this is, we know from the sequence that must exist along the bottom row that this digit has to be capable of being next to 5 or 7 on the sequence. Which means we're looking at worlds where this digit is 1, 2 or 3, 9. That's the only things that are next to 1 and 2, that are next to, 5 or 7 on the sequence. So if we view this row as a sequence, and that's completely acceptable because those 8 cells are on snakes and therefore they do operate exactly in accordance with the sequence, and then this is just the leftover digit which will effectively fill in the gap in the sequence. So this is a 1, 2, 3 or 9. Now this column also has that logic. These 8 cells are snake cells, therefore they operate in accordance with the sequence, and this is the gap, and the gap will just be the leftover digit which will effectively form the gap in the sequence. So 4, 8, so we must be poking out the other side. Yeah, that's lovely, because the 4, 8 is never going to a 4, we're not putting a 4 or an 8 here, which is one of the possibilities, because 4 and 8 are always next to each other, because we've worked out that 4, 8 can never be next to 5 or 7. So this square, in fact, has to be the other side of the 4, 8, and it's the 3 or the 9. So this is a 3 or a 9. And now we can fill in the bottom row, and then we're going to be able to fill in this row, and we're going to carry on, and we're going to eventually end up here, aren't we? And somehow, some way, that's going to do something. Yeah, I know what it's going to do, actually. What would be the digit? How would we disambiguate this puzzle by virtue of this circle? This is genius. This puzzle is just stupidly clever. It's absurd. What number on this sequence would be disambiguated by a circle? Well, it's nothing that has the same parity, is it? But the 1 and the 2, if we knew this cell was a 1 or a 2, then we would know, because it's odd, it would be a 1, and that would disambiguate the order of the sequence and probably allow the whole puzzle to be filled. I think that's what's going to happen. Anyway, let's come back to this. So we now know we've got a 3-9 going to a 5-7. So we know we must be in 1-2 land here, which we always know then leads to a 6. So we get another 6 in the grid. Then we go to the 1-2 world. Then we go the other side of the 1-2, which is the 5-7. Then we go to the 3-9. Then we go to the, you've guessed it, the double 4-8. Now, in this in the paradigm of column 1, we have, oh, sorry about all the squeaking. We have got 4-8s going to 3-9s. So if 4-8s go to 3-9s, whether they go this way around the sequence, they go to 5-7, or this way, they go to 5-7, you can see. So this is always 5-7, which means that 5-7 we know, the other side of the 3-9 is the 1-2, which means that we get the 6 here, which means we get the 1-2 here, we get the 5-7, we get the 3-9, and we get the 4-8. This would be lovely, actually, if this is all diagonal. Then I could fill this in much more quickly. Yeah. Yeah, so okay. So now I've got double 4-8 in this row. This... is it legitimate? Well, 1-2... do I know that... hang on, let me just think about this. It looks like this wants to be a 6, doesn't it? Do I know that that's the case? Because of the... does this always have to... is it, the thing that... sorry, and the reason I'm just hesitating for a moment here is that obviously this is the situation... this first time we've had to consider the point at which these snakes are turning. And I'm always worried about a turn in the sequence as to whether or not you could get the repeated digit. Indeed, maybe you had to have a repeated digit. Because I sort of want that to be a 6, to be the same as this digit. That's confused me for a moment. Let me just think about that. I've got a double 4-8 in this column though. So maybe that's a better place to focus. Yeah, because if I've got double 4-8 in this column, what's the next digit along this snake? Given it cannot be a 4-8 due to the Latin square restriction. The only numbers that are next to 4s and 8s that are not themselves 4s and 8s are 3s and 9s. So that is definitely a 3 or a 9. And then we know, because we can't go back into a 4-8, or these two digits will be the same, that that is a 5 or a 7. So that's a 1 or a 2, so that's a 6. So that's a 1 or a 2. So this is a 5 or a 7. And then by Sudoku, I've not put in the accompaniment to the 3-9 here in this column. So that becomes 3 or 9. Yeah, I see. So I think what I've got to do here is be very careful about this. I think it does look like it's going to work, doesn't it? But I think I've got to be thinking about the 4s and 8s in the turns. And that's why I can't extend this one, but I can extend this one. And hopefully at some point it'll resolve itself down here. This is amazing. It's just amazing. So now we've gone 4-8s here into 3-9s. So we're in that world, which we always would have been, I suppose, because we could never have repeated the 4-8 because we had the 4 and the 8 in row 2. This is the 5-7, which means this is the 1-2, which means you've guessed it, that's the 6. This is the 1-2, this is the 5-7. This snake, that's all snake, so that's completely legitimate. This is the spare digit. This is the 3 or the 9. Oh dear. Right, but now Now things look like they're getting harder again, because how are we actually going to... How do I know that this digit, which look, I want it to, so it's 5, 7, which we know goes to either 1, 2 or 3, 9 in either case. It looks like, because this diagonal pattern, it got to go to 1, 2, but if it went to 3, 9, why would that be broken? Let me just fill in. I don't know. I sort of feel like I should automatically be able to just work that out, but for some reason it's not. That's not filling me with joy thinking about that, I have to say. Or is it more because... Yeah, no, maybe it's okay because now I've got these two filled in. Is it now okay to view this as a sequence? Is that the point? Is the point that these two have to be connected in the sequence now? That's hard for me to see that that's true. So if we went the other way here, we went 1, 2, 6, 1, 2, and then rather than the 6, which is what I'm expecting, we went back to the 5, 7. Let me just have a look at this. Maybe it breaks for some reason I can't immediately see. Then we would get back to the 3, 9 here. So we'd go 6, 1, 2, 5, 7, 3, 9. We'd go double 4, 8 here. Oh, and then we get a third 3, 9. So that's why it breaks. Because you sort of start the cycle off in the wrong way. You hit too many repeated digits. Oh, well, that's good. That's good, because that does give me some confidence that we can just fill this in, therefore, with 6. Well, not confidence, I mean, it's just right to say that. And then we know 6 goes to 1, 2, which goes to 5, 7, which goes to, what was it, 3, 9, which goes to double 4, 8, and that's lovely, and that's beautiful, good. And then we know if we've got double 4, 8 here, that 4, 8 always goes to 3, 9. This is snake, so that's completely legitimate to do that. So this is 5, 7, 1, 2. That gets me a 6 here. And then this column by Sudoku needs a 1, 2 there. And now if we've got 5, 7 going to 1, 2, we know it goes to, you've guessed it, 6, which then backs out to 1, 2, backs out to 5, 7. This is going to be a 4 or an 8. I do know that. I'm just a bit hesitant at just automatically assuming it. You can see there's these beautiful patterns. Oh, and you can see as well, look, we're going to end up with a 1, 2 here on this diagonal. Yeah, that's so clever. Wow. Okay, so let's again just convince ourselves one more time by looking at this column why it doesn't work if we do it what would be the wrong way. So if we went 5, 7 to 3, 9, 5, 7 to 3, 9. Well, we're always going to double 4, 8 now, aren't we? Hang on. How are we not doing that in this column? No, we are always doing that. That's not even ambiguous. Sorry, that's just forced. So then we go 3, 9, 5, 7, 1, 2. And that's all good. And now I've got a 1, 2 pair here. So this sequence is sort of, you can see it's sort of working, isn't it? What do we put into this cell? Well, we either put in, given it's next to a 1, 2 on the sequence, it's either a 6, which it can't be, or you've guessed it, it's 5, 7. So yeah, this is now working. It's just forcing itself round the grid. Oh, good grief. So we can, I think, now just fill in these diagonals like this, like this, like this. This is so exciting, this one. We've got 4 8s on this diagonal. We've got 4 8s on this diagonal. And we've got 3 9s on this diagonal. So we're left with this ridiculous pattern, which is resolved by this being a 1. Okay, now does that mean this whole diagonal becomes a 1? That's what I'm hoping. But I can't assume that. Well, no, I really can't actually. So this then has to, well, 1 is always going to be next to 5. It's never next to 7 due to the rule. So that's got to be a 5, which makes that a 7. Now 5 is always going to be next to 9. We've already thought about that a bit. That is a snake, so that's legitimate. So that becomes a 3. 3 is next to 7. 7 is next to 2. So all of this sort of starts to get filled in. Look, it's starting to happen. We've got 2 7s, and these 2s look like they're aligning. 3 can't be next to 4, so 8, 4 go in. 4 can't be next to 3, so that's 9. This is all just extending stuff along a snake, isn't it? So this is not complicated. That's got to be a 1. Yeah, so that look, it's starting to happen. 9 has got to be next to 4, 8, 3, 8 again, 4 again, 9 again, 5 again, 1, 2, 7, 3, 8, 4, 8, that's therefore 3, therefore 7, therefore 2, 1, 5, oh, smashing of the door, 9, 3, right, how's this going now? Look, it's gonna, I mean, I could do this at speed. I don't know whether I should do, or whether people would then be cross that I'd assume that this pattern is just propagating and iterating itself through the grid, but it is. It just is. That's just amazing, to be honest. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? This is 2 by Sudoku now. Am I allowed to say that? No, 2 by Latin square. 2 by Latin square there. And then this is snake. So now we can go 5 here and 7 here, and it's all propagate. I'm going to do it. I'm sorry. I have to save my voice sometimes at the moment, and this is just magnificent. Good grief. So we can just highlight everything on this diagonal, fill it in with 9. Everything on the next diagonal down is going to be filled in with 4. Everything on the next diagonal down is filled in with 8, and then it looks like we've got 3s. Then we've got, what's this one? 7s. And then we've got 2s, and then we've got 1s, and then in the corner we need a 5. And the reason we need a 5 is we need something that's 4 away. Or 4 or 5 away from 1. And that, I think, I don't know what the tick's going to make of this. Yay. Time 27 minutes. I've gone in a time machine apparently. It says 58 minutes on my clock. Oh, it's because I reset the puzzle. Okay, that's why. Wow. Well, that's a bit longer. The last couple of days I've got away with slightly shorter videos, but that's an amazing puzzle, actually. That's an amazing, amazing puzzle. And it is some sort of miracle that solves. And look at this repeating gubbins in the grid that we've got at the end of it. With how do you have this sort of idea? This is another of these occasions where I just don't know how the cogito got up in the morning and said, I know, if I think about Latin squares, I can just see you can make a snake, or you can make 3 snakes and cover an entire 9 by 9 grid in a tiled way where the snakes don't touch each other. Oh, and look, and there's a repeated pattern going on in the snakes. How do you have that thought process? It doesn't make sense to me. And yet, here we are, solving that exact puzzle today. Wow. It's just amazing. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I'll be interested to see. Is that a Sudoku we've done today? Not really. Well, it's something. We've certainly done something, and it was very, very interesting and exciting. So thanks to the cogito, thank you for watching, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.